let me share a story. Like, I personally got overwhelmed with the pressure that I put on myself to post 7 days a week or to take that one form piece of content and then spend hours like editing and modifying it. Welcome to the Action Taker podcast. Hi, I'm Lauren Cosgrave, and I'm a business coach. In this podcast, you'll find an action-packed look at the strategies, tactics, and mindset that lead to successful online coaching, consulting, and service businesses, even if you're a mighty team of one. Hello, Action Takers. It's Lauren. Have you started your coaching practice, but you're finding that you're still just making side hustle income? Are you struggling to make that career out of your coaching practice and you want to break out of that side hustle zone? Well, I want to invite you to head over to laurencosgrave.com and grab a copy of the Coach's Blueprint for Consistent Sales, where I share what are the steps that you need to take to build consistent sales in your practice and stop living in that sporadic life of just being stuck in the side hustle zone. In it, I'm also going to share my top 3 mistakes that I see coaches make in their practice so that you don't make them in yours. So go grab it today over at laurencosgrave.com. And on today's episode of the Action Taker podcast, we're going to be talking about my 3 tips for how to reduce that weekly churn in your business. So often we get stuck in this heavy, cumbersome administrative burden of trying to post weekly and trying to go live weekly and doing all these weekly things in our business. If you listen to any business strategist out there, it's constantly about what to do weekly and talking about consistency. And there's nothing that's going to break your back more than trying to do all of that yourself consistently. But there are strategies and ways that you can get ahead of that you can give the appearance of being on social media all the time, omnipresent, when you're actually not, when you're actually meditating, when you're actually sunning in your backyard or doing whatever other else activity that you want to do. So let's dive in today on my tips of how to reduce that hustle and strain of your weekly task in your business. Step number 1 is get into the practice of creating just one long form piece of content, at least every week. And you don't have to do that every week. You can say do 4 long form pieces of content at the beginning of every month if you want to. But getting into the habit of doing a blog, of doing a podcast, of doing something that has some meat, some tooth on it, right? Something where you're kind of riffing and you're talking a little bit more consistently about whatever it is, the content that you deliver. This is the backbone of consistent social media marketing and email marketing, is doing that piece of content that goes to the depths that really impacts change for your clients. And then you chop it up. You take a sound clip, you take a quote, and then that becomes your social media content for the next week or a couple of weeks. This is what a social media manager is going to need when you get ready for that level of working with one. And we'll talk about that in tip number 3. But building this muscle, it's also a way of really solidifying your message. So there's this ulterior motive I'll have here as your business coach, is that this is a way for you to build that muscle of what is it that I do? How do I communicate what I do? The more you talk about it, the more you're out there practicing this exercise of at least once a week, going deep on some topic within your niche, it's going to make you that much better over the long term as well. So after you have this one long form piece of content, you can then give yourself 30 minutes to an hour to schedule out maybe 2 to 3 posts, social media posts, to support that long form piece of content. Let me share a story. I personally got overwhelmed with the pressure that I put on myself to post 7 days a week or to take that one form piece of content and then spend hours editing and modifying it. Don't overthink it. Just take that piece of content and repurpose it. Use it a couple different places to start getting in that habit. You're going to get the benefit of consistency to your audience, refining your message, and practicing what you were going to need when you reach that financial level that you can hire out your social media. Okay, so that's tip number 1, is just getting in the practice of that long form some type of long form piece of content every week, or batching it out, something that will be distributed once a week. Strategy number 2. This is my most favorite strategy. This is one of the coolest things that I've recently started, and I love it. I hadn't yet figured out how to move away from the weekly email. And I've started doing quarterly email batching. What? Quarterly emails? Yes, I've batched 90 days worth of emails all at one time. If you are a business owner that has been creating weekly content for over a year or even a couple of months, you already have enough content to most likely build out a 90-day email plan. What I love about this strategy is you bring intention and scheduling to calls to action, to engage in your business, to go that next step, to watch your webinar, to grab your download, to book a call with you, to learn more about your coaching or consulting services. So what this looks like is every month, every 30 days of that quarterly bunch, you're going to have 2 pieces of value content for the first 4 weeks. And then you're going to have 2 to 3 direct calls to action to take whatever that next logical step is with your business, whether it's a webinar or a call with you or a lead magnet. Those emails can be the exact same content every 30 days, those few that are the call to action. You can take old social media posts and turn them into email value pieces. You can promote old podcasts that you've done, and that's a piece of value content. So your goal is to get to 8 pieces of value content a month. And then every new person that comes into your funnel then has at least 90 days worth of emails they're going to be hitting their inbox. They're not waiting for your weekly emails. They're not like in some off cycle. They're just having this continuous drumbeat of content and value from you. And you then shift to, what are you going to latch on to the end of that? What's that next quarter's worth of emails that are going to go out? And this way you're always having this like forward thinking. Like what we're trying to do is we're building this like age of our content, right? Like we want our content to be aged out like at least a quarter. So if life happens, social media could be a little bit shorter than that. If we're in the like month range to 45 days, or even if you have like someone that you work with that is going to be doing it consistently for you, then you have almost an infinite buffer there, right? But we're working to like build that age of our content. And when you have enough of it, oh, by the way, you can repurpose old content. This is one of my, we're going to add in a 2B here. You know what? I wasn't even planning on this, but here's like an addendum to my second tip. 2B is repurposing old content. Whenever I'm going on vacation and I've forgotten to get ahead of doing my one long form piece of content a week, I will just pull up a best of. I'll pull up one of my older pieces of content and put it back out there, because there's going to be people that didn't hear it. It's not a cop-out. It's just reaching more people. I'm going to add a little bit of context here just in case you haven't heard the statistic before, but did you know that only 3% of your audience sees your social media content? The likelihood of someone seeing something more than once is so dramatically low. We need to like get over this need to put pressure on ourselves to like keep creating new content. You can pull up old content and use it again. Okay. So tip number 1, one long form piece of content a week or repurposing old content. That's the addendum. Tip number 2, building out quarterly email strategies with clear calls to action at least once a month in that quarterly email plan. Make sure that you have like a sophisticated email automation tool to run this. You'll need something like ActiveCampaign, or you can even do it in Kajabi or Infusionsoft, something that's going to allow you to have that smart technology of tagging people as they come into your funnel. Tip number 3, strategy number 3 for reducing that weekly churn and burden of content creation is outsourcing. Now, this one comes after steps 1 and 2, okay? Once you are in that, have you built that muscle of doing that one long form piece of content, you have your email strategy going, then you're ready to say, okay, I know how to do this. I've mastered it myself and I'm ready to give it to someone else to help me take it to the next level. Then you're ready to hire someone to take that long form piece of content, to do that editing, to pull out quotes that you never would have even thought of would add value. This new lens, this new perspective from a fresh person is really going to help elevate and maybe bring a different lens to your content. You can even outsource the value content emails from tip number 2 with your quarterly emails. You could go on Upwork or Fiverr and hire someone right now to go write some value emails for you. Hey, go take a look at my social media accounts and write 20 emails for me. You could go hire someone to do that if email is just not your thing. This email strategy, I have to give credit where credit is due. I'm learning from my coach, Caitlin Batcher. It's really transformed and changed my weekly rhythms. So what's going to happen when you implement these 3 strategies? For me, I've had this really weird thing happen this week. Guess what's happening to me? I'm finding blocks of time where I have freedom. I'm finding blocks of time where I used to otherwise be like so mired in the details and the tactics of like writing social media posts, where I'm now like, oh, I actually get to think long term. Like I can go sit in my backyard with a glass of iced tea in the sun and like really meditate, think about what is the next level for my business. What do I really want? What is going to serve my community best? It's an amazing feeling to finally get to that point that I've wanted and dreamed of. And now that it's here, I kind of don't know what to do with myself. And action takers, that is my wish and desire for you, is that you reach that point too in your business, where you're to the point where you no longer are overwhelmed with weekly content, with what is it that's going to help me get underneath this stress of the weekly churn within my business. So action takers, if you're still struggling to know when is the right time to introduce ads, if you're still struggling to know when is the right time to start working on my social media, if you're just getting started in your practice, you have to head over to laurencosgrave.com and grab your copy of the Coach's Blueprint to Consistent Sales in Your Business. You'll learn how to prioritize your days so that you're never stuck saying, what do I do next again? And you'll also learn the 3 most common mistakes that coaches make in the early stages of their business so that you can avoid them. Don't get caught in those same traps. So action takers, remember that normal is boring, success is inevitable, and action taking is replacing the grind. And I'll see you next time on the Action Taker podcast. And I'm so glad for those of you that were able to catch it live here on Instagram. This was a blast. Hope you're doing great. I'm always here for you.